Hi, it's Adam Panisi. I help educate people in property development and investment. I'm a property developer myself and an engineer by profession, and I have been involved in over $200 million of my own property development projects. In this video, I just wanted to share with you about the current market in Southeast Queensland and the greater market in Australia. So that's the property market I'm referring to. So what I'm noticing on the ground in Southeast Queensland in particular, but I'm also seeing it in other states, is the state of our construction market. Now, what I want to elaborate, or what I mean by that, is many people may know the construction market is heated at the moment. Construction material supply is in high demand and there's not enough supply to go around. So what this means, or how this has an effect on the property market in the Southeast Queensland corner in particular, there's not enough supply on the ground, and that supply is residential housing, whether that be units, townhouses, or houses detached, as in detached dwellings. Construction prices have gone up substantially this year to the tune of 20 to 30%. So this year being 2021, and it's only looking like it's going to get worse. And the reason is material is in high demand. The production lines were shut off during COVID, so they didn't produce enough material during that time, either locally or overseas. Unfortunately, a lot of our manufacturing gets done overseas. The raw material supplies get imported. So a lot of those material supply chains were affected during COVID, and we're still seeing the wash up of that some 12 months after really we've come out of lockdown. And it's not going to get any better. So there's already an undersupply of accommodation, so the vacancy rates are extremely tight, and if we can't build product stock fast enough, faster than the amount of people coming into the state, and that's only going to get worse. So at the moment, with Sydney and Melbourne being in lockdown and Queensland borders shut, in one instance it is positive for Queensland, because if they were allowed, or if we had our borders open rather, we would still be letting people into the state, and it'd be putting even more pressure on our housing. So we've got a massive undersupply, some councils a lot more than others, and I'll give you some examples of which councils are in undersupply, and I think they're going to be in undersupply for at least the next couple of years. And they're going to put pressure on housing prices, and there can only be one way that housing prices are going to go, and that is up. So those particular councils in the southeast corner is Sunshine Coast, huge undersupply of property, massive. Actually, it's probably the worst out of all of the southeast corner. Moreton Bay, which is basically halfway between Brisbane and Sunshine Coast, there's at least 3 to 5 years of undersupply in Moreton Bay. We have a couple of projects in this region, and this market is only just really starting to come out and increase with an increase in pricing. And then Brisbane itself, undersupply of properties. Brisbane is a little bit different to Sunshine Coast and Moreton Bay in that there's properties, or the additional accommodation or supply that's coming to Brisbane is more high density because of the restricted land supply. So just think about it logically, and property is bricks and mortar, so don't think about it necessarily just as being the numbers, although there still needs to be a massive consideration around looking at the numbers. But just logically think about Brisbane. The major supply that comes to Brisbane is concentrated towards the inner city, and a major supply being, say, one building with 500 units or 100 units. So those projects, they take generally 2 years to build, and there's at least absolute minimum 1 year in the planning. So if you take it from day dot being towards the end of 2021, we're seeing sales volumes increase. We're seeing projects being sold off the plan. So what that means is those projects that are being sold now are not going to be delivered for another 2 to 3 years. So any major project in Brisbane that's being sold off the plan now will not be delivered for another 2 to 3 years. So you can kind of see the wave coming. So over the next few years, we're going to see all of these projects come out of the ground. So give it another 12 months, so say mid to late 2022, Brisbane's going to have 20, 30, 40, who knows how many cranes coming out of the ground or across the skyline of the city and surrounds. And over the next couple of years, because that's how long most of these buildings take, so that puts us from 2022 rather. So 2022, towards the end of the year, they'll start. So fast forward 2 to 3 years. So you'll be looking at 2024, 25, then we'll probably go into oversupply again. And those projects which are being sold now will be completed towards 24, 25. And then I believe we'll be in oversupply. That will be subject to overseas migration and the interstate migration, and whether that continues both overseas, whether the migration comes into the southeast corner, or whether the federal government focuses that towards the southern states because of the massive interstate migration. So just be prepared for the next few years of rapid growth, massive construction boom off the back of the sales that's happening now, and then keep an eye on the market. I may change my prediction in the next couple of years depending on what happens. But at the moment, I suspect late 24, 25, we will start to go into oversupply, and I think the market will cool, and we'll probably see a drop in those unit prices by potentially 20 to 30%, exactly what's happened over the last couple of cycles. Maybe more depending on what happens in the world economy. So for the next few years, Brisbane, southeast corner is going to have a massive run, and Brisbane undersupply, and that was the original thing that I started discussing, was the undersupply in Brisbane. If you can get your hands on property that's got a land component, or you are developing units, I think the market will get better before it gets worse. So if you can hold back on your sales, if you need, or if you can, I personally would be doing that. So that's Brisbane, highly restricted land supply. Then as you go down south and to the west, so Ipswich City Council, there's a huge amount of supply out there. So Ipswich is never in undersupply. There's so much land in Ipswich, they'll have another 100 years of land supply out there. Logan is not too dissimilar. There's some major projects in Logan City Council. So Logan is between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So there's massive oversupply. There's probably an undersupply at the moment, but in future years there'll be a massive oversupply in Logan and Ipswich. And those two areas are not desirable to live in. So people only generally live there for affordability. So capital growth in those locations will be diminished by the fact that there's oversupply and people can't necessarily afford more expensive properties. Then getting further down south, Gold Coast, there's still a huge undersupply on the Gold Coast. I can't see that changing anytime in the next 5 years. And then further down south, again, over into New South Wales. Now I know that's not exactly the southeast corner, but given it's so close to the Gold Coast, that northern New South Wales corner, there's still an undersupply in that area. And again, I think it's going to be like that for at least another 5 years, depending on what land council opens up for redevelopment over that period of time. So I hope that's given you an insight. I've really given you the main key areas in the southeast corner, both in undersupply and in oversupply. And if you are looking at properties to either purchase as a single residence or looking at doing a project, property development, I suggest looking at areas which are in undersupply and are going to remain in undersupply for the foreseeable future. Because with a project, if there's increases in construction costs, you want to know that you can pick that up on the back end, and property prices have increased over that same period. So thanks for watching, and I hope you've got some valuable insight out of what I've shared today.